every time Danny Jacobs gets hit, a good shot, is usually up against the ropes, and you know, this is where he doesn't need to be. He does all his best work in the center of the ring.
Yo, Danny, look at me. Stay off the ropes. Only time he'll catch you, you're going to the ropes make you fall back. Stay off the rope. You won't fall back.
Yeah, nice. Jacobs just circled right back into a corner to start the round.
You know, some boxers do that. They like to keep their back on the ropes, and you know, it's not necessarily the best thing to do. Some form bad habits that way. Jacobs has a balance problem that he needs to work on because it really affects some of his punching, and he gets hit. Jacobs has a lot of volume in his punches, but you know, most of his punches are pitter-patter, and he's scoring the points when he's throwing his punches. You know, you look at Jacobs, his feet is in front of him, he's moving all around, he's crossing his feet, he's putting the back foot forward, he's crossing.
I think the more important problem is Danny Jacobs trying to figure out the movements and the pressure that's being applied to him from all angles.
Well, he agreed with his cornerman that he can't be backed up against the ropes, that the ropes are not a good place. But Pirogue has him against the ropes again.
So, you know, you just have to make adjustments if you can. Realize you got a very talented fighter, so boxing different. Do a lot of feinting before he punches to make him move first and then hit him.
You know, just because Pirogue did not star in the Russian amateur program and go to the Olympics and earn the kind of profile that several Russian fighters have gotten from their Olympic action, a lot of people might have thought, oh, maybe he's not as good as those other guys. Maybe he's better because he has trained himself into a more American style.
Watching the tapes of Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Look at the head movement there.
Definitely not European fighters, so maybe his style wasn't really compatible with their scoring system was over there neither.
Fighting somebody from Russia, if you're looking for that solid, stand-up, stationary style, not here. This guy is a mover.
Well, what's interesting to me is the pressure that he's putting on, and Danny's doing good right now, but I don't know the pressure he's putting on Danny. He's making Danny fight and move a lot faster than I think Danny wants to.
The jab is beautiful. Use your jab more. Double and triple the jab. If you get him going backwards, keep him going back. But you know, like I know, he cannot fight going backwards. Keep him more balanced. Don't let him dictate no pace.
Jacobs back in that southpaw stance. Seems to feel he maybe has a better chance to land a power left hand out of this stance than out of his conventional stance, Emmanuel.
Well, I still can't figure it out, but evidently he must feel more comfortable in it. But I haven't saw him land too much, except the first time he did it, he was able to land a looping left hand. But other than that, he's not been that effective. But, you know, it's risky when you're fighting a guy with a great upper body movement that Pirogue had to be doing anything that's experimental, so to say. And then Jacobs has to try to throw his flurs and land and get away right away. But I think that the fight's going to be fairly competitive to a certain degree, but I'm just worried about the condition of Jacobs going down the stretch.
Because?
Well, I don't think he's ever had this type of a pressure up there. These guys come in with very difficult pressure too, not a straight line pressure.
What was that, Emmanuel?
You know, I think he just told him maybe a little bit, not even a big issue out of it, which I think is good.
Yeah, I didn't see anything really land low.
It was low, but I don't think it was intentional, and I don't think it was...
Oh, down goes Jacobs on a perfect right hand, and that may be that. No way! Robert Byrd won't even finish the count. He waves his arms, and Jacobs is gone on a stunning knockout by Pirogue. Can you come back from the shocking early knockout in your developing career?
But this was this guy was fighting a good fight all the way through. To me, although I saw the fight should have been close, I could see going down the stretch, I liked the way that Pirogue was looking. After seeing Pirogue is going to be a problem for anybody.
Here's the right hand, and boom! Jacobs was asleep for 5 seconds. That was enough to convince Byrd that it was over. Just at the moment when Byrd waved off the count, that's when Daniel looked up and seemed to say, wait a minute, I'm still here. But, alas, the knockout had already been scored.
But look at the body movement of Pirogue coming in from all kind of angles, not just his upper body, his footwork, as well as It's just very, very difficult to fight with a guy like him.
And Jacobs will switch stances.
Oh yeah, he said he loved fighting from the southpaw stand. There you go, see him now. He wish he could do it all the time, but he's a natural right-hander.
Tell me about the effectiveness in doing that in round.
I don't know if it's effective or not because he just got hit with two straight right hands. It might not be in his best interest to be southpaw right now. I'm always leery when I switch because, you know, I actually was taught conventional. When I first started boxing, I taught myself southpaw, but I'm afraid because every time judges see you switch, they think that you're either in trouble or you're confused or something like that, so I'm leery about that all
That's
the time.
interesting.
He's definitely controlled the action, but if it was me, I'm definitely going to try to push for the knockout. A lot of times the fighter, they move out of position, and you know, Daniel, I think it's moving a little bit too much, and he's not giving himself those opportunities when he's standing close, throwing those hard shots.
It is nothing to be ashamed of. We'll take this land for my bunghole. Long live the almighty bunghole. I am the great Cornwall. There will be tea for every man. We have been without speed. No man should be without speed.
Seems like the handlers of Canelo Alvarez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. are in negotiations for a fight on May 6th. Now they've talked about Canelo fighting Triple G in September of 2017. Now my question is Chavez Jr. a good tune-up for Canelo Alvarez for Triple G? A guy that comes forward, takes shots to give shots, and apply pressure on good old Con Julio. Now this is talked about as a pay-per-view fight on HBO, and it's actually at a catch weight of 165 pounds, with Canelo being a current WBO junior middleweight champion, which took off Liam Smith, and Chavez Jr. fighting earlier this month Dominic Bridge, a German fighter, at a catch weight of 169 pounds. Chavez Jr. actually has been fighting above 160 since losing a unanimous decision against them. Oh, actually he lost his WBC middleweight championship against Sergio Martinez in that fight in 2012. And since then, man, he has faced Brian Vera twice. And I think that these fights were at catch weights. Anyway, I believe Chavez Jr. weighed 168 against Dominic Bridge. So he would have to lose 3 more pounds, you know, going against Canelo. Chavez Jr. probably would be weight drained at that weight. This would probably just be like a good payday for Chavez Jr., I believe, you know. No real aspirations of winning. And for Canelo, you know, it's a payday as well. And he feels probably that he's skilled enough, even at a catch weight of 165, you know, to put a beating on the heavier man. I expect like a late round knockout, maybe in the 8th, 9th, you know. Maybe a similar thing like when we saw Alfredo Angulo fight Canelo. One thing Chavez Jr. is going for is just size, and he does have a decent power. Not necessarily to the head, but to the body, I believe. And I don't know if we've seen too many people test Canelo to the rib cage, you know. But Canelo is a good body puncher himself, and he definitely will test that weight drained body by Chavez Jr. with his body punching. The thing with Canelo, he's the cash cow in boxing right now. Chavez Jr. is probably the fighter that presents just like a name value as far as having that Chavez name, you know, of his father, who is the real legend. And this is what we would call the good old game plan of low risk, high reward, adapted from a past generations fighters, you know. These shadows span so wide, man. And even if dudes are retired or not really fighting at that high championship level anymore, they set the blueprint for these fighters nowadays. Game plans, mindsets, money over glory. Now Canelo also has other options for 2017. Now Canelo also has been made the mandatory challenger for Billy Joe Saunders middleweight belt, WBO middleweight belt that he actually won off Andy Lee way back when. And I believe they actually skipped like this Georgian dude, the Mike Tyson, the Mike Tyson of Georgia, that put a beating on the prospect at super middleweight, Antoine Douglas, I believe, or was it middleweight? I'm sorry, I think it's middleweight. So Antoine Douglas actually was like compared to by Bay Area fans to Andre Ward, and I believe like the guy had sparred with Andre Ward and maybe fought out of the same gym, something like that. And this guy, this Georgian Mike Tyson, just put a brutal beating on him, you know, for extended rounds, and stopped him late. I guess that put him in position for Billy Joe's title. But the WBO skipped this dude, or I guess ignored his plea for that mandatory challenge, or I guess like he has time to appeal that decision of the WBO to make Canelo the mandatory challenger, which is interesting since Canelo is like granted a former WBC champion, but the circumstances in which he won that title, I mean, fighting at 155 pounds at a catch weight for the title, you know, against also a fellow diva, Miguel Cotto, relinquishing the title when faced with the mandatory challenge of Triple G, or basically that proposed, or not only proposed, but actually ordered unifying match with Triple G. Now winning a 154-pound title against Liam Smith for the same sanctioning body, you know, WBO. And he's just being made the mandatory challenger for Billy Joe Saunders, man. That seems strange. It does. Maybe the WBO is acknowledging all these 155 pounds fights by Canelo as real middleweight fights, who knows. But I guess this Georgian dude is being skipped, passed over, looked over, and I guess that would be Canelo's second option, you know, trying to win the WBO title, middleweight title that is, against Billy Joe. But what has Billy Joe done really since winning that title of Andy Lee? Really he has been sitting on that win, for real. I mean, he has fought since twice, I think, but really unimpressive performances against overmatched opponents, really. But in the end, not overmatched. From a skill perspective, going into the fight, you would assume they would have been overmatched, but Billy Joe Saunders made his work a little harder than probably he had to, or should have had to. I'm actually I admire the style of Billy Joe Saunders. I like his right hand jab. He fights southpaw, very elusive, but keeps his opponents in check. You know, he actually dropped Andy Lee with a stiff jab. But he has been somewhat inactive and hasn't really put his name out there. You know, when he's mentioned with Triple G, he's gonna discuss this match, but he's not going to really acknowledge him being like really in the hunt for a fight with Triple G, and who is really, you know. But I guess Billy Joe Saunders wants to be extra paid if he fights a monster like this, basically acknowledging that he wouldn't have a chance and that it would be just a payday in which he hands over that belt. Granted, in the ring, though. That fight hasn't been made and couldn't be made. He hasn't fought a rematch against Chris Eubank Jr., which is also questionable, man. I don't know how that situation is playing out, but I don't even know who's Chris Eubank Jr. is really fighting. I heard like actually he's moving up to 168. But they had a good fight, or decent fight, you know, early in Chris Eubank Jr.'s career, who has been hyped since then, but who also has called out Triple G, and they haven't been able to make a fight with that, you know, with Chris Eubank Jr. and Triple G. So how serious that was is also in question. But I guess like Bill Joe Saunders is also not looking to give Chris Eubank Jr. Any shine, you know, in a rematch, since he had won that first fight. Saunders, that is. So who knows if he's even taking like a mandatory challenge by Canelo serious, but it would probably be his best bet, you know, to defend that title and make a little bit of money. Would he have a chance against Canelo? I don't know. Judging by the last performances, it doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like he's in that mood to really... he looks like a fighter that actually accomplished what he had, what he dreamed of in winning his title. I don't know if he has much more of... I don't know if the guy wants to accomplish any more than that. So he might take like a payday against Canelo. Who knows, man? Hand his title over to Canelo. Now, let's say if Canelo won the WBO title, middleweight title, would that help him in any negotiation more than when he had the WBC championship? And I guess, yeah, he didn't want to be dictated his plans and future, you know, by sanctioning bodies at that time. So he gave up the WBC title, but yeah, it was a mandatory, so who knows, man? If they couldn't come to agreement, you know what, I don't know what would have happened. But him having, if he beat Saunders, him having the WBO middleweight title, they're talking about him fighting Triple G, you know, the end of next year. I guess the title would probably be just another bargaining chip and would make it better, make it look better as far as like having a unification fight. After Triple G obviously is gonna stop Danny Jacobs in March 18th. They are fighting, him and Jacobs. And I don't see Jacobs doing anything like people have talked about since Kell Brook was able to hang in there with Golovkin for a couple of rounds. So like there's an assumption out there that maybe Danny Jacobs can do a similar thing. Maybe extend Gennady a little longer, touch him up, maybe hit him with something, but I don't see it. I don't see it, man. Danny Jacobs doesn't seem like a guy that's really confident, you know. In all the negotiations leading up to the fight, you know, him calling out Triple G after signing other fights, you know, stuff like that, man. Good for him for taking this fight. Hopefully he will be compensated well. And I don't know, man. Yeah, he's probably gonna take a beating, you know, for taking this fight. Oh yeah, and Danny Jacobs obviously is the WBA middleweight champion. So that's what Triple G needs, you know, to get his fucking ass out of the... I'm sorry for cursing. To get his ass out of the middleweight division. Like all these fighters, man, they don't want to be dictated anything to them. They want to stall out their careers, man, by basically pursuing whatever payday they seem fit, you know, without really thinking about their legacy and really offending and disrespecting basically fans by playing to casual fans and discrediting other fighters by really themselves looking for their most lucrative fights without necessarily any risk, you know? Like, let's be honest, man, Triple G should have moved up to 168 to pursue like real threats, to really manifest himself like as that monster as he is portrayed as, you know. No, I mean, I applaud fighters that want to unify divisions and all that, but if the atmosphere, I guess the political atmosphere or the business atmosphere in boxing is not helping that, and also you're going like well into your mid-30s, I think you should probably pursue like some different routes to make yourself like the pay-per-view attraction and the type of superstar, and yeah, that you see yourself as, and that your hardcore fans portraying you to be, you know. Now in Canelo's case, man, he actually could like take the Chavez Jr. fight, be well compensated in that fight, and make a simple mandatory, or I don't know, maybe a defense of his middleweight, junior middleweight title, and keep stalling out fucking Triple G. Actually, like, why not? Why don't you do that, man? I'm not rooting for Canelo to do anything in the sport, man. I mean, people have been saying like Floyd Mayweather's signature performance is Canelo Alvarez, but since fighting Floyd Mayweather Jr., man, Canelo has been on his own, like hissy fit ways, fighting at catch weights, just fucking around with the boxing tradition, you know, at fighting at the legit weight, and he's fighting for money, basically, the guy, you know. Even if he fought like guys like Arislan Lara, I think that's probably the last dangerous fight he has taken, you know. And it's not about uplifting the boxing community by creating like rivalries. And I mean, what was the last good rivalry where we saw like good fighters fight each other for more than once? It's probably Pacquiao Marquez, you know. And these dudes went in there 4 times, man. Like, let's look at like guys like Floyd Mayweather, who has taken that low risk, high reward type of attitude in fights. Like, he took Baldomir instead of fighting Margarito, right? Because he could make the same money with a lesser opponent in Baldomir. But what if he would have fought like a guy like Antonio Margarito, because he has some pride in his as a sportsman, you know, or competitive pride. Like, he could have actually like created that type of trilogy. I mean, at the time, people would say, oh, the guy was wearing plaster in his hands and all that. But at the time, that's in hindsight, man. At the time, we didn't know that, and nobody knew. So, like, Floyd Mayweather ducked a dangerous opponent, you know, obviously for being compensated and against a lower risk opponent. But I mean, if he fought the guy, maybe we would have seen a trilogy or something, you know what I mean? And Floyd didn't have to lose a fight actually to give a guy a rematch. We saw that in his, later in his career, you know. And or even a fighter like Paul Williams, you know, what if he fought him? What if he fought him more than once? I mean, even if he lost 1 or 2 of these fights, man, I think he would have been more so respected than he is now with his undefeated record. Maybe not from money team supporters, you know, that are looking at it from a totally different perspective, but from the general boxing community, as well as fan community and hardcore boxing fans, man. that will not put a blind eye to this whole low risk, high reward bullshit. I don't care, man. I just want to see good fights. And I'm gonna respect you if you take good fights with good fighters. Like belts, legit belts, lineal belts, all that shit is actually not that important to me, you know. I just want to see that name against that name. That name that's acknowledged by the real boxing fan community, you know. But whatever, right? Like, or Floyd winning 154-pound titles and not really defending that shit, man. You know? I mean, I don't know. I think that blueprint has been laid out, you know, and even like Manny Pacquiao, man, training fighters like Miguel Cotto and whatever other catchweights dude had, you know, Margarito, people like that. It just didn't set a good example, you know, for all these young and up and coming fighters that now are on the top level and are basically going off that same blueprint, you know, ducking and dodging, low risk, high reward. Really testing the fans' patience, you know, and not really helping the sport. Triple G should have moved up and already fought guys like Andre Ward when Andre Ward was willing to fight the guy, you know, at 168. Now it's craziness because Andre Ward is at 175, which will put out that excuse for Triple G for the rest of his career. We will not see this fight. Andre Ward did a good thing in challenging Sergey Kovalev, but he's still also the shadow of guys like Mayweather and Pacquiao and whatever. It still casts up to the 175 division, man, where we see guys like Adonis Stevenson like relentlessly ducking guys like Sergey Kovalev and any real top level competition. And now Andre Ward winning the majority of the titles against Sergey Kovalev, but playing with the notion of retiring, not giving Kovalev a rematch if he's not getting highly paid for that rematch. I mean, as far as I know, he was the guy that benefited the most, right, from the financial perspective in the first fight. And we don't hear like Kovalev talking a lot about money, but obviously a lot of these athletes nowadays take pride in being businessmen as well as fighters, and they all the time have to put that out there, you know. We are businessmen, we are smart. Is there a little bit of that inferiority complex going on with fighters, you know, or some fighters that always have to like establish, you know, that mindset, you know. Please realize I'm not just a fighter, I'm also a businessman. I can read, I can count, you know, that type of shit. Canelo should have never stopped this whole Canelo weight bullshit. 155 weights, now 165. Like, is he really trying to make his his new standard of weights? Like, it's all fives now. 145, there is 135, and there is 175. But I think we will see a time where Canelo is late in his 30s and will fight at 185 pounds. You know what I mean? The guy should have rematched Erislandy Lara, and if he can't make 154 pounds, then he should have moved up to 160 and fight legitimately at that weight for a long time now. I don't want to go too much into Miguel Cotto because that guy is hopefully out of the game after that one fight that he wants after that Kirkland fight, because he kind of initiated a little bit of that stuff also, as far as especially like for the WBC middleweight title, you know, since winning it from Sergio Martinez, also at a catchweight. At least Sergio Martinez, as far as I know, like fought 160 pounders at the full weight, you know. Obviously he was still also talking about like maybe being too small, or being a 154 pounder fighting 160 pounders, you know. maybe being too small to fight guys like Andre Ward when Andre Ward was still at super middleweight. But and it can be maybe said that he didn't want to fight Triple G at the time where he was the champ. But Sergio was at the end of his route, you know. He was an older champion and would have been kind of bullying by Triple G if he fought like a hampered Sergio Martinez, as we've seen him like in his last couple of years. And really, what a shame it is that Canelo has taken that route, you know. Man, like if you fight guys like Floyd Mayweather, it seems like you're psychologically in a dump. You seem to be your manhood seems to be taken off you without really necessarily going through a beating. You think you have to like bully opposing fighters on the negotiation table from then on. Like guys like Miguel Cotto, they have that same trauma of fighting guys like Pacquiao, you know what I mean? Cotto has that Floyd, what's his name? Cinnamon. He has that Floyd Mayweather trauma. There was a time, man, where we were applauding Canelo, man, for being one of these young fighters that are gonna do it a different way, you know, by fighting guys like Lara, Trout. Who else was there? Did he get all that credit for just Lara and Trout? He fought Angulo, I guess. Angulo was still somewhat of a name at the time. Who did he get all that credit for, man? I guess he got credit for fighting Floyd Mayweather Jr., but I mean, that just seems obvious, you know. If you're en route to be a superstar, a Mexican superstar, why not take that fight? And people say that's the signature fight for Floyd Mayweather Jr. in his career, man. That just tells you, yo, all these legends, we know who they fought and who they beat. And if they were legitimate dudes, you know. But we can't say that about guys like Mayweather, man. Who's his signature win? Diego Corrales? Canelo Alvarez? To me, it's probably Maidana, right? To me, it's Maidana, man. And Castillo. Maidana is the best, his signature wins. Both fights were supposed robberies. You know what I mean? Could have gone either way. Maybe more so towards those aggressive fighters that got the L on that day. And as long as Canelo's not fighting dudes like real guys like at 154, you know, Lara rematch, the Charlo brothers, at least the guy that just beat Julian Williams, you know. The other guy hasn't really done anything so far to like be regarded that highly or talk as brash as he is talking. Like John Jackson, really? What is he known for, you know, for getting knocked out by Andy Lee? Demetrius Andrade, okay, he himself has to do some work, you know. Like Willie Nelson will not put you into the position where you can talk trash to everybody. Who else is there, man? There are good fighters at the 154 division, but somebody gotta fight him in order to get their name out there. And if you don't fight him, they're just gonna fade into obscurity. Yeah, man, I mean, there are other fighters also, man. Like, really younger fighters. Like, I understand if he's not fighting dudes like Tony Harrison, Jared Hurd, dudes like that, you know. But let's give at least champions a chance to unify and whatever, you know. Good old Cornholio, man. Then fucking Gennady. Yeah, they're all on the same route. Look at Billy Joe Saunders, man. He's just shell-shocked by that whole game, man. He's just sitting there in a fucking closet in a dark room, not doing shit. Like, I don't know, just munching on whatever he's munching on, right? Fish and chips or some shit. Yeah, man. Middleweight division is in disarray. Like Chavez Jr. is gonna get a shot at Canelo, man, a junior middleweight champion. It's too funny, man. It's too funny. I don't know, man. It doesn't really make sense and it's very confusing. But I don't know. Who cares really? Fight Chavez Jr. Make that money. Triple G, try to unify and fucking try to catch ghosts. And there are not many other guys, right? Dude like Andre Ward is going into diva mode, trying to deny Sergey Kovalev a rematch. Hopefully it will be a good 2017, man. You just can hope for the best, but at least at those weights, man, people are like talking about Danny Jacobs versus Triple G is like this great fight and all that, you know. Just because it's been hard to make, it's not a great fight. People need to get that straight, you know. Even Canelo versus Triple G is not a great fight, man. We know what's gonna happen in that fight. Like guys like trainers like Robert Garcia, they say like, yeah, why not delay that fight as long as you can. Canelo is a star, make that money with easy fights and shit. And then if you fight Triple G, you know, take all that money of that pay-per-view and, you know, you take the most money and fight that guy, fight in a smart fight, which means surviving, not taking chances. Try to win by robbery on the scorecards or either get beat in a somewhat underwhelming fight, you know, in a surviving effort. Not take crucial damage to shorten your career. And yeah, he's still young and can go off that, right? I mean, he fought the guy and fought a bum fight, basically. Watch Hector Camacho versus Julio Cesar Chavez. You know, that type of fight. Surviving, maybe trying in 1 or 2 rounds and getting a little bit of credit, you know. But Triple G, man, he doesn't have that Mexican fan base behind him that will elevate a win like that to some great heights like they did with Chavez back then to Camacho. Canelo has that following behind him, so even if he survives against Triple G, he will be declared a moral winner. So there's no really losing in that. So they have all the chips on their side, man. They can just wait out the Triple G to either get old or I don't know, man, what they are looking for, man. They're looking to see the guy slow down so they don't want to get too much of a beating. I don't think the guy Canelo can beat Triple G. And I'm not looking for that fight to happen anyway. It's not a very great fight. People want to see that fight for some reason, Ben, but I think Canelo is not. He doesn't even seem to have the confidence, man. Who calls a dude out like he did, man? Calls him into the ring, what? To act, to say something in Spanish, act like you want to fight the guy, talk about your balls in public and shit. And then, you know, he was congratulated, like he was like Triple G actually still was congratulating Canelo and they were shaking hands in that ring. I think he came over like, it's all good, we're still friends. I'm just saying that. Don't believe what. Don't translate, Abel. Don't translate. Oh, fucking Cornholio, man. Cornholio! Man, Jacobs looked intense, man. Very intense on that stare off. That weigh-in stare down. I like the confidence. If it's real, I mean, looks a bigger man actually. The taller at least, you know. Maybe not as thick as Golovkin is, but yes, definitely. He carries some muscle, Jacobs, you know, he's a ripped dude. But in comparison really to Golovkin, he's the more ripped, you know. If that's a factor, you know, that's to be found out, but probably not, you know what I mean. I wrote a couple of things down, you know. And look at Jacobs, you know, I watched a couple of fights of his. Tried to figure out, you know, I heard a lot of this P-Rock talk, you know, and P-Rock is not the same fighter, the same type of fighter as Golovkin is, you know, not at all. Golovkin is a pure pressure fighter. Anyway, let's see if I can decipher this shit. You know, watching Jacobs, I felt he backs up in straight lines a lot, and he backs up to the ropes. He drops his hands, anticipating a smother and a clinch. I feel that makes him vulnerable to getting hit with straight right hands. He actually at times displays a good jab. His jab comes off the hip. He uses that jab in variety, you know. He sometimes throws it in somewhat in an angle jab. You know, Jacobs doesn't throw enough stiff jabs, in my opinion, to set up straight right hands, you know. Most of the time he throws like range-finding jabs, kind of distance gauging jabs, basically to set up a looping right hand. He definitely seems to have improved, you know, since his early career defeat to P-Rock, especially when it comes to patience and overall better punch placement, you know. He does still have a habit of backing up to the ropes though, you know, and he does drop his hands. Like I said, he's anticipating a clinch while doing that, you know. Puts himself in a very vulnerable position. I feel P-Rock has a much more diverse skill set than Golovkin. He has very good upper body movement, head movement, fast feet. He's able to punch off different angles and present different angles to the opponent, you know. Presenting different looks, in this case to Jacobs, in their fight, and making him therefore hesitant and forced to retreat while being hesitant, you know. You know, Golovkin, I feel, should have a harder time with a more mature, wiser Jacobs, you know, who probably should fight behind an authoritative jab, you know, fighting off ring center, continuously turning his man while keeping his opponent busy, you know, with deliberate combinations, at times thrown with some variety also in power, you know, similar as P-Rock did against Jacobs, kind of counteracting any unnecessary waste of energy, you know. But Jacobs' still apparent habit of backing himself up to the ropes, even against lesser opposition, should spell trouble at some point, you know, of this fight against Golovkin. You know, Golovkin is, while not the most elusive target, you know, he seems to have a good sense of range, you know, with his power shots especially, and he does set them up. You know, behind like throwaway punches, which in his case seem also to hurt, those throwaway punches. So I don't know if that qualifies as such. He also varies the power in his shots, you know. He cuts the ring off. He makes his opponents either desperate to either retreat, engage, or clinch. And Golovkin, he doesn't allow his opponents to clinch. He seems one of the few fighters who are not interested in any type of slow dancing, you know. And he will make that apparent to the ref by his body language, you know. He will kind of signal, or to his opponent, you know, by brute force. You know, Jacobs has a tendency to put himself in these positions where he's compelled to reach out to his opponent, you know, for stability. I don't know, man, maybe that puts his balance kind of in question, you know. Maybe as a balance issue. You know, balance is one of the best attributes of Golovkin though. He seems to have his feet set at all times. Both Golovkin and Jacobs have good left hooks to the body, although I'd favor Golovkin's overall body attack over that of Jacobs. You know, because it comes in a more sustained fashion, you know. Jacobs at times will switch southpaw, which in my opinion kind of mutes his offense to a degree, you know. And although presenting like different looks to his opponent at that point, he's usually also a tad more hittable from that position, you know. Since he tends to drop his hands and rely predominantly on upper body movement, you know, to evade punches. I feel it's more so a defensive tactic, if not a stalling tactic, since it usually doesn't generate much offense. Jacobs has a good left hand, you know. He does throw good left hooks, left jabs. When he throws them with intent, they seem to get the attention of his opponent. Jacobs has good legs under him and is a physically strong fighter, but will not enough use that physicality, you know, in his fights, which could be attributed to his maybe more natural tendency to use the ring and counter. Against a certain level of opponent who might not do the best job at cutting off the ring on Jacobs, he does show decent ring awareness and ability to box and make even his switch hitting work. He has a good overhand right, which he looks for to finish fights. But it comes too often in that looping motion for my liking, you know? Not enough in a straight line. But he did show that ability to throw a straight right hand against Peter Quillen, who himself was with his back to the ropes at that point. The overhand rights that he used to finish, they were more thudding and stunning than really fight ending. Or that's generally the right hand that he throws, it's in a looping fashion, you know. Jacobs defensively, you know, he will try to roll with right hands of his opponents and kind of protecting himself with his shoulder, you know, which could work against him, you know, against fighters with timing that are able to make up distance quickly. His second way of defending when his opponent is on the inside, you know, makes up the distance and is basically on his ass, are basically earmuffs. At least at that point he has both of his hands up, and I don't know if I can call that intelligently defending yourself, you know, especially against a fighter who's picking his shots in range. I do like when Danny Jacobs is aggressive, you know, and comes forward and kind of catches and shoots and doubles up on his punches. But the moment he wants to be cute, you know, and starts moving and evading, he finds himself much more vulnerable for my liking to some of his defensive hiccups, you know, more so than when he's aggressive, I feel. Then again, against lesser quality opponents, he's vulnerable coming forward when he doesn't keep his work short and tight, you know. He has a tendency to reach for his opponents, whether it is with the intent of range gauging or just simply by overextending himself with his punches while trying to be the aggressor. Upper body movement, good legs, you know, compact punching, athleticism, explosiveness with some decent thudding power, you know. There should be some good attributes to give Jacobs some room to breathe early in the fight against Triple G. But if you mix Jacobs' more negative habits with Golovkin's relentlessness and lack of out-and-out recklessness in his pressure approach, it would seem to just be a matter of time for Golovkin to trap Jacobs and make him panic and matters. I give Jacobs credit for taking this fight though, you know, challenging himself as an athlete, as a competitor. But he is facing a fighter, man, who thrives when his opponent gives him the chance to work his game plan, you know, which is to pursue intelligently. Yup. Yet ferociously, he is facing a fighter who will exploit weakness. Be it a weakness in strategy or concentration, be it a weakness in will. Golovkin will be there to extract that weakness, and with deceiving technique, he will exploit that weakness ruthlessly. You know, I don't see the fight going the full distance. I don't see Jacobs being the effective aggressor for 7 of the 12 rounds, you know, in order to win on the card. I rate Jacobs, you know, high enough to see him getting stopped in the later rounds 8 to 10. You know, but based on his vulnerability in his chin and in his defense, I can't rule out Jacobs getting KO'd earlier, you know. I think it's a safe bet to see the fight ending, you know, with a right hand by Golovkin and Jacobs being on the ropes, being connected on, you know. Golovkin might even score a couple of left hook body shot knockdowns, you know, in the prelude to the apparent KO. Yep, that's my thoughts right here. I'm looking forward to a good fight though, you know. We can only hope for really surprises because, you know, that's really what brings us drama. The drama show. It really is only a drama show if there are surprises and if emotions can get evoked, and that's what I hope for, you know. Credit to both fighters for being in this fight, you know. Taking the challenge of facing their best opponent in the division, you know what I mean? So, have fun watching the fight. These are just my thoughts, you know. Don't take anything to heart. I'm not an expert. I just looked into a couple of things and thought I'd share them, you know. You can leave your comments and your thoughts in the comment section below and let me know if I'm wrong, if I'm right, whatever, you know what I mean? Hopefully it's a good fight though. Aight. Drunk on Punch. Peace out. Bin raus. What's up with Chavez, man? I guess Chavez and his new trainer, Nacho Beristain. His trainer, Nacho Beristain, they had like a little argument. A verbal clash, as they call it here, you know. I guess the argument ensued when Chavez Jr. wanted to leave training camp. I guess he was training with Beristain in Otomi. He wanted to, I guess, divvy up his training camp between this place, Otomi, and travel to Mexico City or Las Vegas to finish camp up there, you know. And Beristain wasn't too pleased with that, you know. Let me read the quote. That annoyed me a lot, that Chavez Jr. wanted to finish up camp early at Otomi. I told him he was wrong. We've been in here for a month and a half, and on a whim he wants to ruin the job. I'm not playing around. I'm a professional. I told him, I'm not going to Las Vegas like this. He convinced himself that I'm not playing around, and then he told me he's fine, whatever I say. I just told him I did not agree with that decision. It's stupid to spoil everything we've worked for. We still have 2 weeks for hard work. I told him that I want him to have at least 6 months of working with me, and I'm going to make him into a different fighter. So he wants to keep Chavez Jr. as his pupil, I guess. But didn't he say he's gonna retire if he's able to beat Canelo with Chavez Jr.? I guess he's not really looking forward to beat him or whatever, you know what I mean? Or he's not planning to beat Canelo. Let's be honest, a lot of boxing people seem to be giving Chavez Jr. like very good chances of beating Canelo just on size alone. But what happened to technique? If Andre Fonfara is able to outbox and stop Chavez Jr., granted at a higher weight, you know, also Fonfara a bigger fighter, but Canelo, I mean, he's shrinking down to the weights he's making, you know. Dude is also a tank, you know, he's a big dude, man. Maybe not in height, but he's wide. And he can carry that weight, I believe. I mean, we haven't seen him really, but that's my assumption. He's going in against a Chavez Jr. that has even more to drain himself, you know. Against Fonfara, he couldn't even make the super middleweight limit, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd assume he would get drained, you know, fighting at 164 against Canelo. It shouldn't work out well for him. And especially since he's not a skillful guy, you know what I mean? I mean, he can punch a little bit, but he has to take about 5 shots to get 1 shot in, you know what I mean? Very much dependent on that chin. And Canelo can punch. We'll see if his power travels. Just from an accumulation aspect, I think he would be outboxing and late in the fight stopping, you know. But what is it with Chavez Jr.? I mean, a lot of people talk like Beristain is gonna make so many changes, and Chavez Jr. is such an asset now that Nacho is in his corner and everything. But fucking Chavez Jr., man, he has like the tendency to kind of act out, you know what I mean? What is he doing? Like trying to break up the training camp. It seems like he's a dude that's testing all his limits like a child almost, you know what I mean? Revolting. When he's getting like a clap to the backside, I guess he's gonna behave, you know what I mean? Just wanted to know if Beristain is really on his ass, I guess. I don't know, man. I don't see like Nacho helping Chavez Jr. to the extent where, like he says, he's gonna make him into a different fighter. I mean, honestly, man, Nacho is really a guy that trained technical and tactical fighters, you know? Are we gonna now see Chavez Jr. use like the lead hand like Finito Lopez? Fainting away, you know what I mean? Is he gonna be a tactical fighter now? You know, like Juan Manuel Marquez. Is he gonna counter punch? I don't know, man. I mean, maybe you can tell me like a couple of brute strength or brutish skill fighters that Nacho Beristain trained and had success with. I'm not making him out to be like a one-dimensional trainer. I'm giving him credit, really, like most of the fighters that, I think it's the Romanza gym, right, that came from there, I think were very very pretty to watch, you know what I mean? And I don't know if Chavez is that, but like people point back to the Andy Lee performance. I mean, what did Chavez do that was so special in that fight? It seemed to me like Andy Lee ran out of steam beating on Chavez, you know what I mean? When he goes to the body and went up to the head, he did a good job. But I mean, was that any revolutionary tactical improvement that you never had seen from a guy or from Chavez? I don't know, man. Yeah, you can give me your thoughts maybe if Nacho's gonna make any difference in that fight. And how about Chavez Jr. acting out, you know what I mean? Try and test the boundaries. Alright, Drunken Punch, peace out. Spin Rose. Yo, I didn't see this coming, man. Danny Jacobs, man, he put it on Triple G. He worked him over. I didn't score the fight, man. I was watching a good stream actually and listening to a hangout while watching it, you know. I have to rewatch that shit and score it again, man. But Danny Jacobs, man, at the end of the fight I had the feeling that he won. You know what I mean? I know he got knocked down and all that. He did back up to the ropes, like I said, but he took some shots tonight. And he took them well, you know. I guess he missed the weight for the IBF weigh-in at the day of the fight, I believe, right? He wasn't, I guess, eligible to fight for the title, right? For that IBF title. So he might have actually put on a bit more weight than Triple G. And he did look very solid in the ring, you know, and he was able to box really circles around Triple G for most of the fight, you know. I don't see how the judges could give like majority of the rounds, you know, to Triple G for being the effective aggressor, you know, because he was taking way too many shots, although maybe not the most hurtful punches, you know, but how many real hurtful punches did, I mean, he did connect with a couple of hurtful punches, but they were like really sprinkled out over the duration of the whole fight, you know what I mean? It wasn't that he was like consistently putting a hurting on Jacobs. And what I also saw, like, I don't know if that trend was like later in the fight, man, but Jacobs was able to finish the rounds very strongly, you know, mugging to Triple G, kind of like being very animated, you know what I mean, hitting Triple G with shots, actually making Triple G clinch, you know, a guy that doesn't want to clinch, and one of the guys that really is aggressive as far as like getting out of a clinch. Jacobs actually did do well, you know, when he was cornered or trapped on the ropes. He did a good job of like flashing hand speed or evasive body movement or side-to-side movement or smothering, like in the later rounds, you know. He did a good job of smothering Triple G's work. And like I said, Triple G wasn't as reluctant anymore to clinch, you know. Also huffing and puffing over the duration of the fight. And Triple G looked a little older, man. You know, he looked, if not a step slower, maybe half a step slower. You know, I imagine Triple G up against a Nishioka, you know, trapping him on the ropes and basically putting some explosive power on him, you know, but he wasn't able to do that against Danny Jacobs. All the credit to Danny Jacobs, man. And also Triple G, man, he was also in there in every round, you know, it wasn't like that he was being dominated also. So I have to rewatch it. I guess they gave it unanimous decision to Triple G. I don't know about the scorecards right now, but this is like my immediate post-fight reaction, and this was a crazy one, you know. I have to rewatch it, man. It was a very good fight, tactical fight, very good action also, you know. You see Triple G like backing up, getting hit with body shots. Triple G didn't like the body shots, god damn. Good, really swift and fast combinations by Danny Jacobs, man. Really beautiful work, man. Yeah, man. Good night of fights. Alright. Drunken Punch. Peace out. Bin raus.
Interesting that so many people are not picking Chavez, but giving Chavez chances against Canelo. I think it's pretty much affected by either being fans of Chavez's father or just being disillusioned by Canelo's recent behavior, you know? As far as like calling out Triple G, but in the end not fighting Triple G. It seems like it's an emotional pick when you hear like people like Robert Garcia or, I mean, obviously they're not saying he's gonna beat him because he does this and that. Although some people, even like Leo Santa Cruz, I heard a lot of people actually say if he's gonna keep Canelo on the outside and use his reach, he's gonna have a chance. I mean, what, if he's gonna fight him like he fought Brian Vera? That's not Chavez's style, man. He's a hunter. He likes to go to the body. He actually likes to put his head under your chin. That's actually a tactic, man, putting his head under your chin and working away, man. Like even the trainer, man, Nacho, he says Chavez is not the technically better. If you look at Canelo, he's clearly the better fighter. But in his mind, he doesn't think that the better fighter wins every time. Sometimes the fighter with more will wins. I'm not questioning Chavez's intentions, you know, in this fight. I don't think Chavez is just coming for a pay. I think he's coming to win. He says actually always before a fight, I'm gonna show that I'm not just a son of Julio Cesar Chavez, you know? Like Teddy Adler says, fighters who come from nothing basically make themselves. They have a different type of hunger to succeed. And in Chavez Jr.'s case, man, we've seen, I mean, I don't know if it's just for lack of trying that he hasn't like lived up to the potential that is, I don't know, that his genes, I guess, like suggest. But in my mind, man, although like taking a beating in that Sergio Martinez fight, you can't like say he was anywhere near quitting. Clearly didn't have the conditioning to sustain a pace against Martinez, so he was basically a punching bag for the majority of the fight. But in the end, he was showing that he has heart and that he has a puncher's chance against maybe a smaller guy, you know. And even after getting outboxed for the duration of the fight, he'll still be there to question your heart, your chin, you make sure that you're gonna have to earn it in the end, you know? At least in that fight he showed that against Martinez. And I think before the Chavez Jr. fight, we didn't talk about the shot Martinez, so it's really after that Chavez Jr. fight that Sergio was regarded as shot. Alright, Chavez Jr. has, I guess, in like failing to make weight against Brian Vera, renegotiating weights and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Basically not being able to make super middleweight after his loss to Martinez, you know, at 160. So whatever it is, man, maybe the guy had, like Teddy Atlas said, man, he comes from a good family with money, so I guess it's easier to rest on your laurels. Anyway, man, from a tactical perspective, I can see Chavez, like, it's interesting though, you know what I mean? Because now we have to think like a guy like Canelo who really doesn't like to be on the inside, actually, I don't think, you know, or to fight a close quarter type of fight, you know. Or are we gonna see him being like an aggressive puncher boxer like he was against Josecito Lopez, obviously a smaller fighter. But him coming up in weight, pulling Chavez Jr. down in weight, you would assume that it's gonna be a fast start, testing Chavez Jr.'s body. And I think for the whole duration of the fight, he's gonna test Chavez Jr.'s body, man. Looked a little sucked in there at the weigh-in, at least like from the stomach area, judging from that, you know. Kind of reminded me of, obviously not to that extent, but the Angulo Canelo weigh-in. Angulo looked pretty sucked in that weigh-in, you know, and it kind of showed in the fight, you know, he wasn't able to pull the trigger and was basically a stationary target. But let's be honest, man, Angulo hasn't looked the same really before and since, man. He got a lot of credit for giving Lara the fight he gave him, but still, man, Angulo might have been done, you know. Who knows, you know, I think it should actually look pretty similar. I mean, you're gonna see probably a Canelo that fights Chavez like he fought Angulo, you know. Just doing basically whatever he wanted to do, picking his punches. I don't think Canelo has to make it a war or go on the inside and smother Chavez punches and all that. I don't know. I don't see it necessarily. Like, Martinez didn't have to do that against Chavez Jr. He was able to give him the range and the everything, you know what I mean? He was able to fight a good fight at a longer range. And a smaller guy, you know, shorter reach guy. Yeah, man, I don't see it playing out like a lot of people are predicting. And obviously there are some emotional picks in there, like I said, man. But it's interesting that they want to see, what's his name? Chavez Jr. box, you know? Use his reach. Be smart and shit, you know? I think Chavez Jr. is gonna rely on his chin a lot in this fight, you know? Try to stay around for the later rounds maybe. Try to test Canelo. I mean, what do you expect, man? Some crazy improvement in skill set, you know? Like I said, I never saw Chavez Jr. be the most tactical or most skilled fighter, man. He's a fighter that fights basically of the blueprint that his father set for him. Just like in a bigger frame, just bullying dudes, you know what I mean? Walking through shots, doing his little dance, I didn't feel it, you know? That type of shit. And break his opponents down, you know? Also, like, even at the weigh-in, man, just like from a solid body type perspective, I guess, like, who looks the bigger man? Like, Canelo to me looks like a tank, while Chavez Jr. just has the size at this point, I think, you know what I mean? Obviously doesn't have an easy time coming down and shit, so even if people are saying he looked better than he might have looked in some of his 160 weigh-ins, still, man, a long layoff, just general inactivity. Like, there's so many factors that put Canelo in front, man. It's really a little bit of a show fight, you know? It's the Mexican version of Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor. No real reason why this fight is happening. It's a payday for both fighters, with the result basically being very predictable, you know? It's a very predictable outcome. I say it's a later stoppage for Canelo. And I think the body punches will affect Chavez Jr. I think Canelo is the more precise body puncher. He picks his punches, man. He's a puncher boxer. He tries actually to be too much of a boxer at times, you know, obviously. Not only that is what he learned from Floyd Mayweather, not really go for it, you know what I mean? When you have your opponent totally outclassed maybe, or if you have the advantage, not on a level of a Floyd Mayweather, man. In Floyd Mayweather's case, he most of the time has his opponents outclassed and is not willing or able to take full advantage, which would be a KO. In Canelo's case, it's actually more so like for example, why did he box with Miguel Cotto? Well, why was he boxing with the guy, you know what I mean? Every time he like hit Cotto to the body, man, it was obvious that Cotto was hurt. Cotto was getting broken up even in a boxing match, and maybe that's what Canelo wanted, but it's actually a decent fight. But still, man, like, just judging by size and even at this point ability, man, I don't think Canelo should have been giving Cotto so much leeway in that fight, you know. I think he has just a certain type of respect for a certain type of fighters, you know, proven fighters on a skill level, you know. And Chavez Jr. isn't that. He doesn't respect the guy, man, and he's gonna pick him apart. And also from a confidence standpoint, just looking at the face of and everything, man, looks like, to me, Chavez Jr. is getting bullied in there and actually taking the route of talking in English to Canelo and Canelo responding in Spanish. That's like a psychological thing, man. It's almost like not willing to get into a real dispute or anything, you know what I mean? Maybe he also wanted just like to pull the American crowd maybe to his side by speaking in English. I think there has been a theme in these press conferences, and Canelo obviously wants the Mexican people to, I don't know, man, root for him, I guess, you know what I mean, by speaking most of the time in Spanish. Canelo can actually speak English, man. He's responding to all the questions. Maybe they have like an earpiece in with a translator, but still, man, I think it's a psychological thing. And also, like, Chavez Jr., he has a weird way of arguing. Even against Sergio Martinez, he looked more confident, you know what I mean? He tried to keep it respectful, you know, and tried like to accuse Canelo of ducking Triple G and fighting smaller fighters. But then again, like, when Canelo kind of responded, you know, Chavez Jr. kind of backed down and like put it on the fans. Yeah, that's not me, that's not my opinion. But the fans are saying, and the people are saying, I applaud Chavez Jr. for saying, like, that's not how you satisfy the fans. And I want to believe him, but then he also says, like, hey, maybe if I was in your position, I would do the same thing. So who knows, man. And still, like, there's also a little bit of that, I don't want to be disrespectful, right? But Chavez Jr. also looks like a little on the slow side. I don't know. Like a learning disability or some shit, you know what I mean? Like, not all there. A little childish, like there's something childish about him, you know, childlike. Maybe that's being a spoiled kid, you know, growing up rich and whatever, but you know, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say, man. He looks like a slow adult, that's what I'm trying to say. Alright, man, I made my pick, man. I talked about this fight. Alright, Drunken Punch. Peace out. Bin raus. What a great fight, man. This Chavez, man, he's a very technical fighter with Nacho Beristain, man. Did you see that Finito Lopez movement, man, with that lead hand? That was some crazy shit, man. He was giving Canelo that work. You know what it was, you know? You know how it went. Domination. A dude basically having a childish fit. I'm not impressed with Canelo, man, what he did in there, you know what I mean? If you're gonna be that dominant, why not go for a knockout at least, you know what I mean? It's a fucking show fight anyway. This was some wrestling shit, guys. The son of a legend. And I'm not even really mad at Chavez, you know what I mean? It's Canelo, man, that's trying to do that blueprint shit by Mayweather, A-side this, A-side that. Fuck this shit, man. And give Mayweather credit, because he never took it to this type of level, you know? At least I don't think so. Then again, he fought Andre Berto. You know what I mean? But Canelo Alvarez is trying to do what Mayweather is trying to do in retirement. Mayweather is trying to fight a MMA fighter in a boxing match. Alright? But he's a retired fighter, man. He can do whatever he wants. But he still haunts boxing, man, believe it or not. And even dudes like Manny Pacquiao, look at what Manny Pacquiao with the catch weight shit did to Miguel Cotto, as far as like having a fighter's mentality. And look at what Mayweather did to Canelo Alvarez, man. These dudes are haunted, man. And they're basically trying to like, I guess, do to others what dude did to them, you know what I mean? Anyway, man, hey, this was a fucking a boxing extravaganza, Mexico and all that, right? You know, that's craziness. You know who the fighter of the night for me was, man? Marcos Reyes, the guy that fought David Lemieux. He took a beating, man, and he showed a chin.
And he tried, you know what I mean? Chavez Jr. didn't really try. Or maybe he tried, who knows, man? Nacho Barista, maybe maybe Nacho and him will cry about the decision, who knows, man? Yeah, man. Actually, I agree, man. Chavez won by this. Chavez was robbed. He should have gotten an easy win in that one. You know what I mean? I hope they don't stay around for the post-fight interview in true Mexican fashion. I don't want to put it all on the Mexicans. Miguel Cotto does the same thing, you know what I mean? But at least in the Romanza gym fashion. Man, hey. Domination, guys. I feel bad for the guy, man. A dude trying to be like his dad, I guess, you know what I mean? Can't live up to that hype his dad was deserving of. And is taking beatings just for no reason, actually, you know what I mean? I guess money, you know what I mean? I said before this fight, man, I don't think like Chavez is just coming for the payday, but to a degree I think he did. But then again, he was, I guess, somewhat weight drained, a little rusty, you know what I mean? The guy is just not active enough and really also not really skilled enough to be even in a rivalry with Canelo, man. It's really, we're watching like Canelo's playtime, man. This dude is doing what he wants, man, and he don't care. He don't care about the fans, he don't care about boxing, it seems like, you know what I mean? And dudes are catering to the guy. Who's he gonna fight next? Manny Pacquiao? Hey, whatever, man. Drunken Punch, peace out. Burn Rose. I gotta say, I'm even with this post-fight bullshit, man. Okay, Golovkin got into the ring and Max Kellerman, you know, had his exhilarating moment, you know, in between these two so masculine fighters. Oh my goodness. Christmas is coming early. What the? Hey, I don't care, you know what I mean? It's a fight that should have been made, I think, probably earlier or not at all. I don't give a shit, man. Golovkin needs to either move up to 168 or fucking fight Danny Jacobs in a rematch. I'm just making it up as I go along. Never called for anything like that, but I'm kinda annoyed after this fight, man. I had like an awkward feeling watching this fight, you know what I mean? It was for all the wrong reasons, you know what I mean? I don't know, man. Yeah, okay, we're gonna get in September this Golovkin-Canelo fight. So, Golovkin's gonna beat on Canelo, I believe, man. Canelo is not without skill, but it's probably gonna be a little bit closer even after Danny Jacobs might have laid out the blueprint for Canelo Alvarez. All this marinating that these dudes talk about, man, that also fans talk about. Like, fans of these type of dudes. Divas, basically. I don't get extra stoked for anything because I have to wait like 2-3 years for something, you know what I mean? And both of these fighters are just not likable. Is it me or are they just like jerks, man? Like the one dude, man, he will act like he just beat a great fighter or he just performed like so exceptionally. You could really tell that Canelo was like looking for crazy cheers when he started talking. I don't know, man. He's turning into a weird dude, which is so crazy, man, because he started out pretty good, like fighting dudes like Austin Trout and Erislandy Lara, man. These dudes should have been ducked. Not that I'm calling for fighters to be ducked, but if you go by Canelo's like recent career path, I guess you would assume that it always has been like that, but it hasn't, man. Anyway, man, then he's once again like all confrontational with Golovkin, who's just like a fucking puppet, man. Guys, great fight, drama show, Mexican, shut up, man. They're feeding these dudes like these key words that he has to repeat over and over again, you know what I mean? They're both basically like flatline personalities to me, you know what I mean? These dudes, man, they can't sell a fight. They can't sell it on skill set, you know what I mean? But I don't know, man. We've seen with Vladimir Klitschko and Anthony Joshua, it doesn't necessarily have to be like these great personalities to make a great fight, you know? And also Golovkin, man, like Max Kellerman asked him, is Canelo gonna be your hardest fight? And he says, yes, yeah, of course. And Canelo actually, once again, in his like bratish, confrontational attitude, but it's like that fake attitude. Why the fuck is he always like answering immediately to like stuff Golovkin says in English, like in Spanish, and then my friend, this condescending my friend bullshit, you know what I mean? Go fuck yourself, cinnamon biatch.
And also Golovkin, man, he has that wannabe humbleness going on, man, but you can't really tell that, like, he seems a little annoyed, you know, having to wait around on Canelo and all that. I think probably a little tired of all that passive-aggressive hype, promotion, bullshit, animosity, somehow fabricated just by, like, bitchiness and diva bullshit, you know. It's not what boxing normally is, man, but hey, whatever, man. I mean, that's what I'm saying, man. We are recovering, you know what I mean? Dudes want to marinate fights and shit, you know what I mean? I mean, we're recovering from an era of just buffoonery, basically, you know what I mean? Putting purses and their monetary gain over, like, just the real essence of the sport, man. Earn your greatness, you know what I mean? And with greatness you will earn that money, I'd assume, you know what I mean? These dudes are all manufactured, man. Fuck them. I didn't get hyped for that post-fight bullshit, man. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just like a hater. I'm cool with that also, you know what I mean? If I'm hating, then I'm hating. Hey, Drunken Punch, peace out, bin raus. Okay guys, Canelo Alvarez and Triple G. This is a great fight, man. I think everybody's looking forward to this fight. From casuals to hardcore boxing fans. Just to the GGG fans, you know, I think personally that Gennady Golovkin is gonna win and dismantle Canelo Alvarez, you know? Golovkin is too big, too strong, too much power, faced much greater opposition, especially at his weight. And to you Canelo fans, man, I think Canelo, man, is gonna put a boxing lesson on Triple G. Now that we've seen him against Chavez Jr., he's proven at 160 now with his power also, you know, did you see Chavez Jr.'s face? And I don't think Canelo wanted to knock out Chavez Jr. So I give him a good chance of troubling Gennady Golovkin's chin, which I feel has been exposed in the Jacobs fight. Who didn't see Gennady Golovkin wobble all over the ring? Canelo has definitely the boxing advantage, man. Wins against great fighters like Amir Khan, Floyd Mayweather. No, I'm sorry, he didn't beat him, but I mean, it was a close fight. I think I had it a draw. I was in agreement with CJ Ross on that one. Yeah, and to the Triple G fans, man, I honestly think Canelo was ducking, man. And did you see how scared he looked in that face-to-face? Canelo looked scared, bro. Guys? Yeah, man, Golovkin was towering over him and just was intimidating, saying almost nothing. I love how Golovkin is straight to the point. He said what we wanted to hear. That's drama show, Mexican style and different story. That's all we needed to hear. Canelo knew it. Yeah, and to you Canelo fans, man, actually I think Golovkin, he needed to wait on Canelo. Canelo is the big money maker, you know what I mean? If Canelo wants to fight between weights, I mean, Floyd Mayweather drained him, so now everybody else has to pay. That's nothing new. Why would you criticize Canelo for that? Miguel Cotto did it, so it's okay for Canelo. Floyd Mayweather did it, so it's okay for Canelo. Canelo is the pound for pound #1 fighter, and he's entitled to get the benefits of being the A-side, you know what I mean? And also he's the A-side in a fight with Triple G, especially at 160, where he's the now more proven fighter since he faced Julio Cesar Chavez. That's a great win, so come on now. I think I've probably satisfied all of your wishes out there, you know what I mean? Can't have an opinion nowadays, so why don't have many opinions? Let's go Triple G, let's go Canelo Alvarez. I love both these fighters, alright? Also, this is the greatest fight in the history of the sport. This is not a mismatch. This is a very competitive fight, and I think both fighters are gonna win and both fighters are gonna lose. Both are great and both also suck. So yeah, I mean, where's the confusion? I think I laid it all out here, man. Great fight. I love it. I hope I'm not gonna catch any criticism. I have no problem with you guys. Please accept me. You know what I wonder? I wonder how, I wonder why. I wonder if Triple G will purposely make it close against Canelo, you know? In order to secure a rematch, man. I mean, another payday. I mean, he also allowed Kell Brook to hit him cleanly, right? And he also let Daniel Jacobs almost beat him, right? If you want to see somebody, let somebody else do well in the boxing ring, then I think you should watch that fight in August. You want to see an event, like everybody's saying? You want to be fooled? You want to suspend disbelief? Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. And I think the problem is a lot of these fighters actually are believing their own hype. These promoters, managers, whoever, they're not really helping them. They're in their ears telling them they're great, you're taking shots and you're doing it on purpose. Even trainers disregard your defense, just take shots in order to get a payday. A lot of these fighters, they believe the hype, man. They believe their own hype. And we've seen it with the Ward Kovalev fight, man. A fighter not able to not only overcome adversity, but really accept his own failings, you know what I mean? Embrace that and try to strive, try to overcome. He will blame, he will point the finger, like he did in the first fight. Everybody who really watches the sport knows what was happening in that fight, regardless of low blows or whatever, you know what I mean? One fighter was getting broken down, another fighter was getting into a groove, while the other fighter wanted out. That's a harsh reality, I guess, for a fighter who's used to winning and used to being the hype monster his promoters are making him out to be. But it's not only the ego or the aura of an unbeatable champion, of a monster, that makes the great fighter, but the fighter himself also can't suspend this belief and give in to that persona he has created, buy into his own hype. Will have to acknowledge his flaws and approach his weaknesses as such. Suspension of this belief can be accepted from fans, especially casual fans, but in the fighter's case, it becomes delusion of grandeur. Don't fool the public, but better yet, don't fool yourself. Drunken Punch, peace out. Ben raus.